my treasures, Showdown in Badlands is here. So for day one, we're going to make 11 outrageous decks that are brand new to this set, using some of the brand new cards and seeing if we can make some wacky combos work. Some of these are going to be decks that you probably have seen from the initial Theorycrafts, but the majority of them should be wacky combos or taking concepts to the absolute extremes. So let's begin with the Death Knight deck, which is going to be centered around the new card Ma and Pa. The idea behind this deck is we're going to be trying to get our HP pool as high as humanly possible by getting multiple copies of this card, while also controlling the board state and our opponent's hand and deck from any possible combos they might use through things like Dirty Rat, while also using the Primus as a backup plan to increase our HP pool to absurd height, and even having Climatic Necrotic Explosion as the big finisher within the deck. Overall, a very control style of deck to start out this new set with. Now let's get onto the next deck, which is going to be Hand Control Demon Hunter, centered around the new Highlander card, Gunslinger Kurtrus. If you haven't seen this card yet, it fires 6 random 2 damage shots at minions in your enemy hand, which means decks that are centered around 1 or 2 key minions should be able to be easily countered with this card, or because I know for the fact that a lot of people in the Theorycraft streams think Excavating Warlock is going to be one of the more powerful decks. You can snipe some of the combo pieces out of your opponent's hand before you can slam them down. We are also going to be abusing such cards such as Saloon Brewmaster in order to bounce him back so you can get multiple copies of him out. Generally, this deck looks to control your opponent's hand as much as humanly possible, while also have Elite Tauren Champion and the Relic package as a win condition. Now let's get on to the next deck, which is going to be Dragon Reno Druid. This is going to be centered around Reyna Straza and good old Reno the Lone Ranger. The idea behind this is basically we're going to be ramping up so we can slam down a bunch of really powerful big dragons and get infinite resources out of the battle cry of Reyna Straza, giving you Purified Dragoness that gives you a dragon at the start of your turn, but it costs 4 less, thus allowing you to make more advantage out of ramping up really quickly. Out of the decks that I prepared today, this is probably one of the least unique decks. However, if you're a fan of Ramp Druid or Dragon Druid, this is the perfect deck for you to try out. Let's get onto the next list, which is going to be Highlander Hunter, center around Thaladurin the Lost, which is a 4-cost 3 attack 4 HP minion that has the battle cry: if your deck has no duplicates, gain immune this turn and attack all enemies. Which doesn't really sound like that big of a deal. However, if you do find ways to buff him up, such as Hope of Koth'Los or Lothamar, you should be able to hit your opponent for quite a large amount of damage. Or if that isn't going to win you out the game, you can slam down a King Crush to finish off your opponent in one foul swoop. Basically, we're trying to prevent our opponents from winning the game by using the Arcane package, and then we have a few ways to instantly do a bunch of damage on a single turn, and that is what the deck is centered around. Let's get on to the next deck, which is going to be Ogre Paladin. This is probably not the best class for the Ogre package that was introduced in this set, such as King Pud, which resurrects the rest of your Ogre gang and gives them Wind Fury. However, I didn't want to really do something with Rogue and this package, as I thought that was something that a lot of people would catch on to, but instead we are going to be centered around Crusader's Aura, which will allow us to get a bunch of buffs out on all of our ogres that we do revive off of King Pud. And because one of the ogres has a 50% chance of giving our hero +3 attack, we can use the Horn of the Windlord combo better than ever before within Paladin, even though it has been nerfed. Now let's get onto the next deck, which is probably one of the more meme decks, AAECAfHhBAjt Highlander Priest. This is going to be centered around the Highlander card of AAECAfHhBAjt Badlands Savior. This will allow you to get 4 copies of 4 random minions within your deck if you have no duplicates. And the 4 random minions that we're going to be running in our deck are going to be Aman'Thul, Thaddeus, Freebird, and Heartbreaker Hedris. The idea essentially behind this is you can use Aman'Thul to get additional copy of Freebird. That gives you 10 damage right there. Then you can overheal Hedris multiple times through things like Fan Club in order to OTK your opponent. I expect this deck to be incredibly bad. However, this is one of the few combos that I'm really looking forward to trying this out, because it should be able to finish off our opponent if we can get the full combo off. There is a lot of control tools within this deck to make that possible. The next deck I like to call Terror Reality Mage. This is really actually excavating secret mage, centered around the fact that we can get a large number of ejections, since I do predict that we're going to be facing a lot of decks that rely on a few key minions. And this deck centers around trying to counteract those decks through secrets. We also are going to be using Terreality, trying to get as many copies of this as humanly possible to maybe, in theory, get us the ice block in order to prevent lethal damage on our own face, and then slam down Grandmaster Ramith in order to finish off our opponents. I had a lot of fun coming up with this deck. It should be a lot of fun to play, though it does rely on a lot of RNG, so you might not want to try this out day one. Now let's get onto the Rogue deck, which is going to be Windblade Rogue. This is going to be reliant on getting access to this card as fast as possible, which means we're going to run a very low minion count in order to use Elven Minstrel. In order to draw into some key minions, we're going to try to activate his ability as quickly as possible in order to turn him into a dragon that has charge. Then we are going to be shuffling him back into the deck with Sir Finley and bouncing back Lothar multiple times to get him as big as humanly possible. This does rely on us redrawing into him after we do all of this, but I couldn't resist the big meme of this deck, since this is something that looked like a lot of fun. Now let's get onto the Shaman deck, which is going to be the Walking meme, centered around the Walking Mountain. This card has a Mega Wind Fury, the first collectible Mega Wind Fury out of all the possible classes. We are going to be using a huge overload package in order to discount it as much as humanly possible through things like Inza. We are also going to be using the new Brewmaster card in order to bounce back Izna or some of the other key Battlecry minions we have within the deck. Normally, the Walking Mountain won't be able to OTK, but we do also have Jam Session in order to buff it up to 7 attack, which should allow us to finish off any opponent through the last bit of their health. Now let's get onto the Warrior deck. This is going to be Bounce Warrior or Excavating Warrior, depending on how you want to view it. This is going to be centered around Boom Boss Thorgon and Odin. These cards both get a lot of advantage out of bouncing them back to your hand multiple times, and we are also going to be using a Thaddeus package in order to make them cost 0. Since all of the Brewmasters also cost 2. This should allow us to be able to slam down Odin multiple times on the same turn, since he does stack, or even slam down Boom Boss multiple times in order to wipe out a lot of minions from our opponent's deck. Now for the last deck, which is going to be Excavating Warlock. This is a deck that I know a lot of people are talking about. However, we're going to take the idea to the extreme by using Thaddeus Monstrosity in order to discount all of our cards down to 0 that cost 4 or less that are used within the combo. Essentially, the plan is to use the Drill Fist in combination with Shallow Grave to instantly give us the Azure Snake, then bounce it back multiple times using things like Brewmaster or even the Celestial Projectionist to do 40 plus damage in a single turn, with all of the snakes that we are going to be slamming down. And because Renethal has been nerfed, there aren't that many classes that can get above 40 HP within standard Hearthstone, making this deck incredibly powerful, and I know a lot of people have been having a lot of success with it so far. So those were all the decks that I theorycraft for the Showdowns in Badlands Day 1. Let me know down below which ones you're looking most forward to using. I know I went a little bit more wacky than normal, but I really wanted to showcase some of the neat little ideas that I could come up with this set. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.